This is phase two of the seed phase, or part two of the seed phase, because the first stage, we set our altar. And so if you want to review how we set our altar, you can go back and tend to that video again. But the second part is now working with your altar. And so invoking the spiritual essence, that's what we're doing at an altar, into practical living. An altar is not meant to sit there and collect dust, right? It's meant to be used as a cornerstone in your daily practice. And so some of the phrases that I'm going to use as we move into the meditation are really going to get activated and come alive. So the first part of this is really a surrender. It's a surrender process. It's acknowledging and forgiving yourself for mistakes. So we're going to tend to that forgiveness practice that we spoke about, placing that symbol on our altar so that we can allow for ease. And so you can see what is meant for you to do next. That you're not doing this alone. Where God really reveals your present role and your key instructions to be truly helpful. These all might sound kind of vague, but I'm going to ground them in. This window is the experience of the spiritual truth of divine hierarchy. What does that mean? Well, it means we're going to reestablish divine order because that chaos is on the earth. Pretty sure everyone can agree that it is chaotic down here. And we're going to use this idea of the feminine waters, what's below us, this feminine waters, as the way that we climb up the ladder to the Heavenly Father, and then the integration of divine union. Remember, we're using the divine feminine, the divine masculine, flower and gem essences during this phase because we're looking for the union. We don't want to just have one and the other as separate. We're moving towards oneness, and so integration into this union. So let's look a little bit more of like how we really invoke this. So this pattern is the process of either making the mundane tasks the holy assignments or bringing the spiritual ascension in the earth plane and practical. So thus infusing the holy into the mundane, right? And your bonus here is that your holiness protects you. So fear may come up in this process, and that's really the reminder. How you experience oneness in your daily life, where you're not separating the divine masculine and the feminine, you're not separating the mundane from the holy, where we're learning how to bridge them together. If something feels very spiritual in essence to you, you're learning how to then bring that down into the earth and make it practical. Practical wisdom, practical integration. And then if something gets overly mundane or dull or entrenched or even fragmented, that's when you want to bring it back into its spiritual essence. And so how we do this is just by looking at your daily life. You do not need to search hard to find this. Every lesson serves a purpose. And so what we're doing is making it into a holy purpose. Nothing just happens randomly. It's all for our healing. So when you're doing this work and you're bringing it into this holy instant, that's where the union occurs. Okay, so that's our overview. So now we're going to do the practice. And I want to invite everyone to either sit in front of your altar. I brought all of my items over here so that I could do them while I talk to you. And I'm going to just stop my screen share and I will just kind of walk you guys through it. So as a review, we're doing ether. We're going to do them in this order too. Oh, that's funny. The one thing I forgot was a lighter. So one moment, let me actually pause and get a lighter. And if you need to go grab anything, let's just pause for a moment and go grab anything that you would need. So find a representation of ether, fire, earth, air, and water. Okay. And then I'll be right back with my lighter. Okay, so we're going to start with ether. So you can find your symbol of ether or just hold the symbol of ether in your mind or track it in your body if you use that body system. Ether is spacious. So you're going to tune into your body, and if you feel any anger or constriction, that's what we're going to locate first. So just scan your body, tuning into ether, Is there any anger or constriction? Be specific. And then once you find an example, we're going to work on moving through it. So for ether, we're going to use a symbol, and I'm going to give you an example. You can use this one in your mind, or if you have it, I'm going to use a crystal like labradorite. And so in your practice, you're going to take this crystal and you're going to speak into it. So I'm going to use the example here of anger. You can use for 5 minutes or until you have said or shouted it all out. And you're going to pour it into the crystal. So you can hold it in your hand. It's a little labradorite turtle. And you're giving that instruction of releasing that anger, releasing that constriction, and just go into it. So I'm going to give you some time here to really release that feeling. Go all the way into the feeling. And as it goes deeper, you may feel contempt, disdain. Maybe there's further judgment. Just trace this pattern. How does it feel in your body? Where is it stored in your body? Is there a phrase that keeps repeating itself? Just keep following it. We're going to take all this mundane feelings around it, all the emotion, the contraction, the constriction. And you're placing it into this crystal, labradorite, the element of ether. And you're placing it on your altar. So now it is not inside of you, it is out on your altar. And then you can pray to the God of your heart for the shift as you lay it out there. How you receive it isn't up to you to determine, but just put it out there and now say your prayer. Ask for it to be replaced with a miracle. Maybe you're receiving guidance. Maybe you're receiving a gentle perception shift. And it might come later. And that's okay too. We don't get to control the timing here. It's divine time. So that's ether. And if there's more for you, you can come back to it. We're going to move to our next element. We're going to tend to fire. And so if you can, I'm going to be lighting a candle if you can. That's a really easy one, but fire can represent the emotion of joy or a lack of joy. And when you experience a lack of joy in this practice, I want you to not stay in isolation about it. I think there's sometimes we carry shame around our emotions of, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. That's not spiritual. Or that's not the kind of mom I want to be known as, or the friend I want to be known as, or a person I want to be known as. So it's really important to break that isolation. And you can do that at your altar where you're talking to the God of your heart. And a symbol of fire that helps you move into joy can be found by literally lighting the candle. As you light the candle, you can start to pray and contemplate why there's no joy. Like if there's something between you and joy, or if you have plenty of joy, then this is a simple gratitude practice for your joy. But if there isn't, you're going to allow your gaze with the candle and ask for information to be shown to you. So your inner dialogue to God must be authentically your questions around, show me how to experience joy. So some of my examples to kind of get you moving would be, how do you turn up the joy factor? What's in the way of you feeling joy? Okay, so we're going to spend some time here, especially if you're watching the recording, you can always pause it and do this for a longer time period. We're tuning into fire on our altar to tend to joy. Show me how to experience joy. Remember, the caveat is we're moving the mundane to the holy to the mundane. Maybe you want to find a specific mundane task that you want to invoke more joy into. Show me how to experience more joy in my day while I do the dishes, while I fold the laundry, while I harvest the carrots, while I help the child with math. Just like go on this journey with yourself. You may even want to trace where you feel joy in your body or where you don't feel joy in your body. Where do you store the non-joy? Where do you store the joy? And how can you move the energy in between those by calling in fire? You don't have to do this on your own. You can ask the God of your heart to move whatever is stuck in between there. Maybe there's something you want to write down, something that's staying with you. Turning up the joy. Okay. You can always come back to fire. Now it's time to tend to earth. So, earth can represent the emotions of nourishment and security on one end, or scarcity, exhaustion, fatigue, and feeling unsupported on the other end. And so, you're going to find your symbol of earth to work with. So, I chose cacao today, and so I made a sweet cup of cacao to nourish myself. And you can always place just one little piece of cacao on your altar or a small cup as an offering. And then focus on how to come into why you're not feeling nourished right now, or supported, or exhausted, fatigued. And if you are not experiencing any of the lack side and you're in the gratitude and the full side, then this is just an expression of gratitude for earth, for nourishment, for security. Okay. But if you have a feeling that you want to focus on, come in why you're not feeling this nourishment right now, then we're going to kind of trace that. When are other times that you didn't feel nourished, that you didn't feel safe, secure, supported? And as the information comes in and you see times playing like a movie, you can just acknowledge the memories. First, you're just kind of letting the movie reel roll. If you can keep going back in time, further back, and if you can really lock into a memory that feels more like an origin memory, you can tend to when you didn't feel nourished in the past, in that moment. And you can use prayer to relay the nourishment to restore your past self. So perhaps you see yourself as a child, not feeling nourished or safe. How can your prayer go back and ask God to tend to her with you? Give her what she needed. You can move back and forward on that timeline, nourishing, helping her feel safe with prayer, with God, with you, bringing God into those spaces. Maybe she forgot to ask for help. Maybe she didn't know who to ask for. Maybe the people she asked for didn't respond, or they hurt her instead. How can you restore these calls for love with love now? Allowing earth to nourish, earth to feel home, earth to be safe. Restoring, allowing the energy to move out of you slowly, coming back in to your cacao seed or your cup of cacao. And ask God to show you what nourishment is so you can be nourished now. Laying earth on your altar. You can always come back to earth. It is an earth day today. And we're going to move to air. And air can be utilized to label a lack of clarity around the true nature of something. And these could be seen the range of emotions or grief, sadness, regret, and the inability to let go of the past, which can feel, seem, or be harmful when it's carried inside of you. So we're using the symbol of air to bring it out of us. And so move this emotional experience out of you and onto the altar. You can use a fan, a feather, a flower. So I'm using this sweet little spoonbill feather. And then as you place your feather on your altar, asking God to help you release one of these air emotions. So I'm going to tune in to one of the emotions that feels real for you in this moment. That's something you're carrying in your body. Grief, sadness, regret, and inability to let go of the past. And your show me prayer is one of praying for clarity. However, first we got to touch the pain, right? So you can ask to see the story. And hold your past self in that memory. And again, you're asking, what does she need? What do you need? So tune in to the memory. And then ask God to heal this version of the fragmented self. Right in that moment. And if there's any pain that correlates with it, you're going to use your breath and practice letting go of the pain with your out breath. So you're breathing in the pain, and breathing it out. Breathing in the clarity, breathing out what you're letting go of. Whatever information has come in, and if it's too fast, you can slow this down when you're at your altar. Perhaps I'm just giving an example. Next, we're going to move to water. Water connects with the emotion of fear. Love is always the answer. So, in between the two emotions on the spectrum, you have to invoke courage to move into the vitality of life again. This great act of remembering that you can shift a paradigm is held inside of your free will, right? You get to choose. And so you can use a symbol of a shell Or I love to use shell letters. I love to spell out the word love in shell letters. And I place these on my altar to help me move out the fear and into the love. So whether you're using the symbol or holding it in your mind, one of the most helpful questions to ask God is, show me love. So we're going to take time in the stillness to be specific and play in this space. So here's some examples, but please use your own questions, because what's best for me is most loving for others. How can I truly be loving in this situation? How can more love enter into this relationship? So now take some time with water to be specific. Think of a situation that you'd like to relearn how to love in, where you'd like to bring more love in. And just play here. There's nothing to fix as much as tending. Tending is a different energy than fixing. You're asking her what she needs. Just feeling love in your body. What part of your body is feeling that love? What part wants to experience more? How can you move energy there? Or just moving it around. If you want to write anything down or come back to this, just going to place love on our altar. This is the altar practice of really connecting in with your elements as symbols. So I gave you an example of each one where we're tending to the element in order to connect to an emotion, in order to place a symbol on our altar, to then ask God to show you the instructions for restoration, right? So hopefully you've experienced some form of this unity of the divine masculine and the divine feminine within your own self, right? That's part one. And so the second part now is we're going to tend to our original seed. We're going to listen for this divine message, because now we've kind of created the space for it, right? So we're going to step into our true function, our true part in God's plan, that path to oneness. It's in every moment with a choice, where you can see the spiritual nature of all things, where you can choose to see unity over separation. How do you experience the spiritual truth of your original seed planted within you by Creator? We are all come from this oneness with God, right? And it's a gentler, easier path where we're not efforting grain. Okay, you're not alone. How will you choose to make all your decisions with God? And how often do you remember to return to oneness with God in your right mind? So now at our altar, what we're going to do is we're going to ask to hear your seed remembered. We're going to reflect on this original seed, because it's right in that place, that sweet spot when you feel oneness. When you feel like your elements are tended to, restoration has happened, where you return to where you started in that watery ether of the womb. So I invite you to go back inside to the watery ether where you are inside of the womb. If the womb doesn't feel comfortable as a memory, you can just go to the pure spirit with God. And you're going to listen for the message for you. It's your beauty echo, the seed God planted within you, with your ancient name, born from the ancient clan mother here on earth as a spiritual being of the holy. So we're going to take some time and listen. What is your original seed? You might hear other words that people have told you, what you're here to do for them, what society has been telling you, school, family. Just let all of these kind of sift out and tune in to that original seed God planted within you. You're in the ancient womb, the ancient oneness with God. And again, you can always come back to this. And if you want to represent this seed on your altar, I invite you to do that. Take some time to write anything down if you need to. Kind of take a deep breath in. Wiggle your toes. You don't have to come all the way out yet. I'm going to walk you through the last piece to ground it. This phase is when you encode your seeds with the clear imprint of love, right? And you will be choosing 9 seeds. Imagine you want to grow a plant. First, you're going to think of that one seed. So hold your original seed. You need the exact seed to match. And so we're going to do our ancestral step in gardening where place the seed in your mouth so the seed matches what you need. Allow your saliva's intelligence to match the seed's ability to provide the exact nutrients needed when it comes to harvest. Feel your essence match the vibration of your prayer. Cellular resonance, that's what actually heals. All of these steps are about cellular resonance, whether it's to the element, to the story, to the memory. You're using resonance to connect in. Now, all the goals are already inside of you. You're activating the seed's genetic codes that you want to draw towards your mind's eye. What is meant for you from love? We've just spent the first part of this really undoing. And now we're sitting in the genetic imprint of love, making sure that it's true to you by lifting it up in its holy seed form so it's in line with God's plan for you. So you can hold that seed, imagine it in your hand at your heart, lifting it up. We're not writing any seeds down, right? We're hydroponic growers, so we're just soaking in this amniotic fluid of the ancient mother's womb. I want you to enjoy the feeling of being full and ripe. Okay, we are not birthing yet. That won't happen until mid-October, the new moon. Just know, even if this wasn't your story, I want you to recode it. The mother births the innocent baby every single time. No matter the circumstance, the baby is innocent, okay? This is the child of the earth. These are constructs of self and form because you are accepting life on earth in this cycle. That's why we've chosen form. You're saying yes to this body as a vehicle for consciousness to attain salvation instead of separation, which just means oneness, just means union. It means restoring the divine feminine, restoring the divine masculine, and bringing them into union again. We're meant to remember our birth as holy. That's why we have the symbol on our altar of the Divine Mother. The Divine Father gets to come in, and here's our holy birth. This is the mastery that we're seeding. This is the spiritual essence, okay? This is what's that holy aspect of this assignment, and then we're going to manifest it in the practical sense. We're not writing our seeds yet. We'll do that in part 3 and part 4, okay? That's when we're going to really go into more of our seed writing. Right now, we're just imprinting what we've already been living, what has happened thus far. So I invite you to go back to your altar later and revisit anything that didn't get to be finished in this little window. We're going to tend to these elements in your daily practice, whether you want to do that every day, whether you want to tend to the element of the moon, however you best see fit to really show up for the re-encoding. It really depends on the emotional weight that you're carrying. Because if you're feeling really good and there's not as much that you have to tend to right now, then that's amazing. So you're focusing on what you're grateful for if you're in that space, right? And if there's any little bits that you're tending to the emotional weight through the symbol to lay it out on your altar to restore the past, whatever it's connected to that triggered it, and move you into inspiration. Okay. Okay, that's our session for today. And to carry us through this time, and we will meet again for our third part, which begins October 21st through the 31st. And so that'll be a 10-day window. So from now until then, we're going to have our personal discussion.